Welcome, everyone, to the deep dive. I'm so glad you're here today. Because, well, if you're anything like me, someone who genuinely loves learning, constantly trying to optimize your life, you have probably run into an absolute brick wall of conflicting advice about fitness and diet.
Oh, without a doubt, it is everywhere.
Right, like you hear run 10 miles before dawn, but then the next day an article says, no, running destroys your joints, you only need to lift heavy weights. Or, take this hyper-specific algae supplement or you are just leaving gains on the table. It's exhausting.
Yeah, it's totally exhausting. And
Yeah.
honestly, it's the absolute definition of manufactured information overload.
Yeah, manufactured is the perfect word for it.
Because the modern sports and fitness industry, they actually thrive on all that confusion. They take these really fundamental, honestly, rather mundane biological realities and wrap them in what the source text brilliantly describes as beautiful, bright wrappers of advertising.
I love that phrase, bright wrappers.
Right. Because the goal of all that marketing isn't necessarily your health. I mean, it's about sustaining this massive multi-billion-dollar ecosystem of, supplements and customized workout plans and just endless content.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because today we are taking a really comprehensive text, a massive stack of research, and we are using it to just tear down those bright wrappers. We are stripping away all the marketing garbage to look purely at the biological, physiological realities of nutrition and exercise.
Which is so refreshing.
It really is. The mission here is to give you, the listener, a total shortcut. Cut through the noise, skip the introductory fluff, and hand you a practical, completely science-based blueprint for your body. No BS.
I think that is such a vital exercise because before we can even begin to construct what you should do to get fit, we have to kind of prepare ourselves to fundamentally question all the baseline assumptions we've absorbed over the years.
Oh, for sure.
The industry is just incredibly crowded. You've got athletes, competing coaches, massive conglomerates selling sports nutrition. And they throw around words like health and energy and diet as essentially fraudulent marketing tools.
Fraudulent, that's a strong word.
Well, I mean, they use them to promise these universal results, but biologically speaking, universal solutions in fitness are just a complete fiction.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Every single one of us has a highly specific genetic blueprint. We all have unique energy reserves for training and recovery.
Right, like take vitamins and minerals, for instance. That's a perfect example from the source material. It is this bizarre blind spot in sports nutrition.
Oh, absolutely.
You walk into literally any locker room and everyone is just swallowing handfuls of multivitamins. But the physiological reality is that not everyone needs them.
Actually, most people don't.
Right, unless you have a verified doctor-diagnosed micronutrient deficiency, your body simply excretes the excess. You're just making really expensive urine. It has just become this automatic, expensive habit driven by, well, an illusion of control.
It is entirely an illusion of control. And, that actually brings us to the ultimate illusion breaker, which is genetics.
Oh, man, the genetics conversation.
Yeah. Genetics play the absolute most significant role in how our bodies look, how they develop, and critically, how they store fat.
Right.
Even if you completely dial in your diet, optimize your exercise routine perfectly, it is incredibly difficult to predict which parts of your body will remain, quote-unquote, problematic.
Because your DNA is already running the show.
Exactly. Your DNA dictates your bone structure, your muscle belly insertions, your fat distribution patterns. I mean, you simply cannot out-train your skeletal framework.
Okay, but if genetics dictate the biggest part of how we look, why bother trying to look like the inspiring photos we put on our mirrors at all? Doesn't that just set us up for a toxic failure loop? Like, why try to look like Arnold if I have the skeleton of, a marathon runner?
This raises an important question. And it's really about the distinction between biological imitation and psychological inspiration.
Yeah, break that down for me.
So while your genetics provide the architectural blueprint, your daily effort is what actually builds the house. The goal of looking at those photos, the inspiration, it's not to become a literal clone of the person in the image.
Right, because that's biologically impossible.
Exactly. You use them as a directional compass. You look at the muscle density or the leanness in that photo, and you utilize that visual to inspire you to maximize your own genetic ceiling.
So it's about pushing your highly specific hardware to its absolute limit, not trying to download someone else's software.
That is a perfect way to put it.
And whatever gets you to push that hardware is entirely valid, right? I loved this part of the reading. There is this concept of ulterior motives that I just find so fascinating.
Oh, yeah. The secret motivations.
Yes. Like, if you have personal, completely secret reasons for working out, maybe you just want to look intimidating, or you want to make an ex jealous at a high school reunion, or honestly, you are just fueled by pure vanity.
Which a lot of people are.
Exactly. And the text points out that this is biologically irrelevant, but psychologically potent.
Yeah.
You do not have to share it with your trainer. Whatever sparks that neural drive for you is a massive asset.
Motivation is a highly personal mechanism. You have to harness that. Because, well, once we tear down the industry's illusions about genetics and universal supplements, we have to dismantle their biggest illusion of all.
The workout itself.
The workout itself. The one-size-fits-all, grueling 2-hour sweat fest is fundamentally flawed.
Which brings us right back to the hook we started with. The myth of long, exhausting training, the idea that more is better, is just a physiological lie.
Total lie.
The text is so clear on this. A regular training session should be a maximum of 45 minutes to 1 hour. Period. Hard stop.
And this is exactly where the seasoned gym goers usually stumble. I mean, they assume, well, if 45 minutes of mechanical tension is good, 2 hours must yield double the muscle growth.
More work equals more results, right? That's how everything else in life works.
Right, but the biological mechanism of exercise doesn't work on a linear scale. It works on a bell curve.
Okay, a bell curve.
Yeah, so when you cross that 60-minute threshold of intense physical exertion, your endocrine system basically panics. Your cortisol levels spike dramatically.
And cortisol is the stress hormone.
Exactly. And it is highly catabolic, meaning it actively breaks down tissue.
Wait, really? It breaks down the muscle you're trying to build?
Yes. Your body depletes its glycogen stores and actually starts cannibalizing your own muscle tissue for amino acids just to survive what it perceives as trauma.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because the entire culture of fitness, the entire culture, is built on the no pain, no gain mantra.
Right.
We've been told our whole lives that pushing through the agony is where the real progress happens. But the research strictly prohibits pushing through pain to do additional exercises. So isn't capping a workout at 45 minutes and actively avoiding pain just, giving ourselves permission to be lazy?
Well, we really have to establish the critical difference here between muscular fatigue and neurological pain. They are not the same thing.
Okay, how so?
Muscular fatigue, that deep burning sensation from lactic acid buildup, the mechanical failure of the muscle fibers, that is the stimulus required for growth. That is good.
The burn is good.
Yes. Pain, however, is a sharp, localized neurological alarm bell. It is your central nervous system screaming that a tendon is shearing or a joint is failing.
Oh, wow.
Right, and if you push through that specific alarm, you aren't building mental resilience. You are literally just engineering an injury.
And the psychological fallout of that is massive, isn't it? Like, if you associate fitness with literal connective tissue pain, your brain will eventually rewire your habits to avoid the gym entirely.
Because it's a biological imperative to avoid things that damage us.
Exactly. Exercise should stimulate your system. It should make you feel more mobile and energized, not leave you hobbling around feeling broken for 3 days. Consistency over a decade is always going to beat a few agonizing, injury-inducing sessions that sideline you for 6 months.
Precisely. It's a marathon.
Yeah.
And the architecture of avoiding that joint and tendon pain really comes down to rigorous biomechanics.
The technique.
Technique, yeah. Proper technique isn't just about looking good or professional in the mirror. It is entirely about blood distribution.
Like the 90-degree rule.
Yes. Take foundational movements. Push-ups, squats, deadlifts. You must keep a straight spine to protect the intervertebral discs from asymmetric compression. And you absolutely must maintain 90-degree right angles at the joints.
I found the 90-degree rule so fascinating because it sounds like basic geometry, but it's actually advanced physics when you apply it to the body.
It really is.
When your knees bend past 90 degrees under a heavy load, or say your elbows drop way too deep in a pressing movement, the mechanical tension shifts. It moves away from the muscle bellies, where you want it, and goes directly onto the ligaments and tendons.
You are essentially turning your joints into a fulcrum, and that fulcrum is bearing the entire weight of the exercise.
Which is terrifying and incredibly dangerous if your physical condition and the weight you're lifting are mismatched.
Highly dangerous. And this is exactly why vetting a coach is such a high-stakes decision. I mean, you cannot just click the first targeted social media ad offering some proprietary 30-day shred.
No, you have to treat it like a corporate hiring process. The research was highly specific here. It said you need to consult friends who have actual long-term experience, attend initial classes at multiple facilities.
Right. Observe them.
Evaluate the trainer's appearance. Does their physical reality actually match the biological rules they are preaching to you?
That's a huge red flag if it doesn't.
Right. And most importantly, observe their emotional intelligence. How do they treat you when you struggle? Because you are handing this person complete jurisdiction over your central nervous system and your structural health.
That's beautifully put. Because if we are strictly capping your physical exertion at 45 to 60 minutes, the workout itself is really only a tiny fraction of the overall equation.
That's just the spark.
Yes, exactly. You are stimulating the muscle in the gym, but you're growing it during the other 23 hours of the day. And that growth is dictated entirely by your biological inputs, your nutrition.
Okay, so let's get into the math of metabolism. A lot of people really overcomplicate this, but the data suggests we should view calories simply as an economy of points.
A points economy, right?
Yeah, it's basically an internal video game economy. You can't spend points you haven't earned, and if you hoard points by eating a lot and doing very little, your body just banks them as fat. And your baseline metabolic rate, whether you naturally run fast or slow, dictates how quickly your body burns through these points just to keep the lights on.
I like to think of metabolism less like a simple point scheme, though, and more like a highly advanced smart grid electrical system.
Oh, I like that. A smart grid.
Yeah, because every cellular action requires a baseline level of power. When you add the mechanical stress of a workout, you demand a massive surge from the grid. If you ignore the quality of the fuel, the precise balance of fats, proteins, and carbohydrates, the grid starts to malfunction.
It panics.
Exactly. Reroutes power away from muscle repair and just prioritizes fat storage as an emergency backup.
And a key way to manage that grid is meal frequency, isn't it? The research advocates for eating 4 to 6 smaller meals or snacks daily rather than, 2 or 3 massive feasts.
Yes, drip feeding the system.
By dripping fuel into the system, you utilize the thermic effect of food. Your body is constantly burning energy just to digest, but more importantly, it prevents those massive hunger pangs and stabilizes your blood glucose. You avoid those huge insulin spikes that trigger the body to aggressively store fat.
What's fascinating here is, well, it's how the timing and the molecular structure of the food you eat completely alters how the body utilizes those points.
Timing is everything.
It really is. Let's look at proteins. We have slow digesting and quick digesting proteins. Consuming a slow digesting protein before training, and especially before sleep, is a biological necessity.
Right, so we're talking about something like casein protein, or for the vegetarians listening, eggs, dairy, beans, and almonds.
Exactly.
The mechanism there is just brilliant. If you eat a slow digesting protein before bed, it essentially acts as an intravenous amino acid drip while you sleep. So you don't wake up absolutely starving, dreaming of breakfast, and your body doesn't run out of fuel halfway through the night and start cannibalizing the muscle you just worked so hard to break down.
Exactly. You are protecting the grid while it's offline.
And quick digesting proteins.
Quick digesting proteins, like a whey shake, are much better suited for immediately after the workout, when the muscles are hypersensitive to nutrient uptake.
Makes sense.
Then we introduce carbohydrates, which act as the immediate volatile power source for this grid.
Carbs get so much contradictory press these days, but they are crucial for replenishing the glycogen you deplete during that strict 45-minute window.
You can't run the grid without them.
Right, but you want good carbs, complex carbohydrates, berries, nuts, whole grain breads, bananas, apples, oranges, and you want them less than an hour before and after training.
Because they release energy steadily.
Exactly. The real threat to the grid is the bad carbs. White sugars, GMO sweets, artificial dyes, waffles, sugary drinks, sodas, they spike your insulin so violently that your body just completely crashes an hour later. Oh, and water. Water is irreplaceable.
Water is the conductor for the whole grid. But we also absolutely must address trans fats, which the data flags as a critical danger.
The massive no.
A huge no. Found primarily in fried and highly processed frozen foods, trans fats don't just add empty calories, they actively impair cellular function.
Wait, how do they do that?
On a molecular level, trans fats make your cellular membranes rigid. And this rigidity literally blocks nutrients from entering the cell and prevents toxins from exiting. You are essentially suffocating your own cells.
That sounds absolutely terrifying, suffocating cells. But before anyone assumes this is a deep dive into pure miserable asceticism, there is a biological loophole for junk food.
Yes, the cheat meal.
The cheat meal. Once a week or maybe once a month, depending on your goals, you are actively allowed, even encouraged, to eat something completely off plan, like KFC wings, a huge slice of cake, a cold cola.
And the mechanism behind the cheat meal is actually profound. It's not just a mental break.
Right, it's physiological.
Yes. If you maintain a perfectly clean, calorie-restricted diet for too long, your body adapts. It naturally assumes you were in a famine.
Because it wants to keep you alive.
Exactly.
Hmm.
So it slows down your thyroid and drops your leptin levels. And leptin is the hormone that regulates fat burning. By introducing a massive, unusual influx of calories and varied macros via a cheat meal, you shock the system.
You trick it.
You spike those leptin levels, essentially tricking the body into realizing, hey, there is no famine, which revs the metabolic engine right back up.
Plus, it keeps your digestive system robust. I mean, if you only ever eat perfectly clean rice and chicken, your gut microbiome loses the ability to process anything else. A periodic cheat meal forces the digestive tract to stay adaptable.
Exactly.
But obviously, that metabolic trick only works if you are relentlessly consistent the other 95% of the time. Which actually brings us to the most difficult part of all this.
The architecture.
Yes, the architecture of consistency. Knowing the biological mechanics of a 45-minute workout and a smart grid metabolism isn't entirely useless without a system to maintain them. To survive the marathon, we have to build an infrastructure of tracking, recovery, and social support.
Because you cannot manage what you do not measure. The research makes a really definitive point here. Physical progress is almost always invisible to the naked eye.
It's so gradual.
It is. Muscular hypertrophy and fat oxidation happen on a microscopic level over weeks and months. So, relying on the mirror is a recipe for psychological burnout. You will not look different tomorrow morning.
Which is why journals are indispensable. You actually need two distinct ledgers. First, there's the training journal, which you fill out a few times a week right after your session. It is a sterile, bulleted data set. The number of exercises, the specific body parts targeted, your current body weight, the duration of the workout, and critically, a note on how you felt.
Yes. And then the second ledger is the diet journal, which requires a much higher degree of vigilance. I mean, you are tracking this constantly.
Calculating the calories and the point.
Right. And you also meticulously record your water intake because, like we said, liquids help absorb those nutrients. But you also record the failures, that extra coffee or that chocolate bar you snuck in.
So what does this all mean? I have to ask, because writing down every single almond you eat or logging that one extra coffee or moment of weakness with a chocolate bar sounds intensely neurotic.
It does sound that way at first.
Doesn't hyperfixating on a diet journal just breed anxiety instead of motivation?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the journal is not designed to be an instrument of guilt. It is simply an objective scientific ledger.
Okay.
Human beings are terrible at estimating their caloric intake. We consistently underreport what we eat, and we wildly overreport how hard we exercise.
Oh, totally guilty.
Right, but people actually feel significantly more confident and grounded when they measure their achievements in hard numbers. The journal removes the emotion from the data.
Because muscle grows so incredibly slowly, without a ledger, you will feel like you are failing even when you are succeeding.
Exactly. You write down the chocolate bar, not to punish yourself, but to accurately diagnose why your metabolic grid might have stalled this week compared to last week. It turns a perceived moral failure into a simple data point.
That reframes it entirely. It's an ongoing biological experiment, not a test of your character.
Right.
And if we are talking about data points that ruin our results behind the scenes, we have to highlight sleep hygiene.
Oh, sleep is critical.
The data emphasizes avoiding late-night work, taking a relaxing shower to lower your core body temperature, keeping the bedroom ventilated. Sleep is not just rest. It is the exact window when your pituitary gland releases human growth hormone.
If you are experiencing nightmares or waking up constantly with anxiety or just tossing and turning, those are glaring biological indicators that your cortisol levels are still spiked, usually from overtraining or poor nutrition.
The exertion in the gym is the spark, but the recovery is the actual fire.
Yes.
And recovery extends far beyond your mattress, right? It permeates your entire social environment. The people in your immediate orbit can serve as a massive structural support or a silent liability.
The research specifically warns about the McDonald's friend.
Oh man, we all have one.
We really do.
Mm.
You have to beware of the friends who subtly mock your new hobby, who try to drag you back to baseline by constantly inviting you out for junk food.
Sociologically, people do this because your new discipline highlights their lack of it.
Exactly. And if you are going to invest in a training partner, they have to be a true asset.
Mm.
They arrive on time, they know your goals, They understand the 45-minute biological clock.
They don't just stand around chatting and cooling down your nervous system or making fun of each other.
Right. They push you to mechanical failure safely.
And when you do successfully navigate all those boundaries, you must systematically celebrate the non-scale victories. The scale is a blunt instrument. It cannot differentiate between water, glycogen, muscle, and fat.
The real data is visceral.
It really is. It is the friction of buying smaller jeans. It's the way your t-shirts drape differently over your shoulders. It is the psychological relief of walking into a sportswear store, buying something you genuinely like, and actually feeling powerful wearing it.
Those are the tangible manifestations of all this. It's proof you've mastered your own genetic hardware.
All right, let's wrap this up and summarize the ultimate shortcuts we've extracted for you today. First, ignore the bright wrappers of the fitness marketing machine. Universal solutions are a profitable fiction. Second, respect your endocrine system. Cap your physical exertion at 60 pain-free minutes, focus on 90-degree biomechanics, and treat pain as an alarm, not a badge of honor.
Absolutely.
Third, manage your metabolism like a points economy, strategically dripping fast and slow proteins while avoiding cellular suffocators like trans fats. And finally, meticulously track your progress through journaling, ensuring your sleep and your social circles are actively contributing to your recovery. You have the power to curate your habits and tune out the noise.
And as we close this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final, somewhat provocative idea drawn from the underlying philosophy of the text. The source material asserts that fitness improves not only your physical, but also your emotional state. It promises that an extraordinary body leads to an extraordinary life.
That's a huge promise.
It is. But consider the physiological implications. We just spent all this time discussing how to rigorously organize our biological economy, managing cortisol, stabilizing blood glucose, ensuring deep hormone-releasing sleep.
Right.
If building physical resilience and organizing those physical inputs directly dictates our emotional baseline, how might optimizing them subtly alter our fundamental personality traits?
Oh, wow.
Could fixing how your nervous system processes the acute stress of a heavy 45-minute workout actually rewire how you handle cognitive stress at work? Could stabilizing your digestion and insulin prevent the erratic mood swings that cause friction in your personal relationships?
That is such a brilliant lens to view all of this through. It is not just about building a physique that looks good in a mirror. It is about fundamentally upgrading the biological hardware you use to experience the entire world.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the consensus, stay intensely curious, and remember to always look closely at what is really underneath all those beautiful, bright wrappers.